Hey, PreSales Collective, it's your host, James Kaikis, and today I'm going to be joined by Bonnie Alexander, PreSales Manager at BotKeeper. The topic of today's episode is increasing your visibility. Visibility for the pre-sales profession is something that is on the top of our mind at PreSales Collective. It's a topic that we believe is fundamentally important for the growth of this profession. And so in today's episode, Bonnie and I are going to get pretty tactical. What are ways that we as pre-sales professionals can continue to build our brands, increase our visibility both internally and externally? And what can we do as leaders to continue to increase our team's visibility within our own organization? Bonnie comes prepared with a lot of really great perspectives. And so I have no doubt wherever you are in your career journey, you'll find today's episode extremely impactful. Enjoy. Today's episode is sponsored by Avneo. Feeling a little overwhelmed in your bid management, thinking there must be a better and more efficient way to manage RFPs, RFIs, and security questionnaires? Look no further than Avneo RFX, a Salesforce native, fully automated RFX solution designed to help you win more of the right business. To learn more, head over to avneo.com or search Avneo in the Salesforce App Exchange. Bonnie, welcome to the PreSales Podcast. How are you today?
Fabulous. I'm so excited that you've invited me here to join you today.
It's my pleasure to have you. We actually were on a panel together at the Boston local event at the end of 2021. You've been on some PreSales Leadership Collective events as an attendee, and you were also on a PreSales Collective webinar. So I felt like it was a great opportunity to bring you on the podcast and talk about your perspectives and what you've been doing around the PreSales profession.
It was awesome to actually get to meet you in person. I didn't think it was actually going to happen, and I wound up sitting next to you. So had a great time that night and looking forward to today.
Me too. It was great, Bonnie. It is so wonderful to finally meet people in person, in real life, after building these relationships virtually and via Slack. Before we get into today's topic of increasing your visibility, which I know is a really important concept to you and PreSales Collective generally, I want to talk about your pre-sales career journey. What got you to where you are today?
Actually, I chuckle because I think I am like many before me, as my journey really didn't start in pre-sales. I started my career out actually as a forensic accountant with Deloitte & Touche. So might be dating myself there with the name. And actually, if most companies really still reported embezzlements, I think I'd still be there. I don't know. It's very enticing when you can uncover 95% of the ways that, a controller is embezzling funds from their company and actually using those funds to party with their company members. So it was quite a trip, but alas, I forged a different path and actually took quite a few different journeys with Deloitte. I was an auditor. I did some internal operations, and I ended my tenure as a project controller before deciding to part ways. I actually had a friend transition over to a European company. So I followed suit there and became an international consultant, implementing highly customizable ERP solutions with a financial back office. From there, I transitioned into a consulting manager for 3 different product lines, had 27 direct reports, which is a whole nother world of pre-sales. But the idea of sales it caught my ear one day and became an earworm for me. So when I actually had the opportunity, our company had acquired a new product. I decided to throw my hat in the ring. I actually took the tactics that I use with my resources today. So if resources are looking to expand into something new, try something new, but they don't want to expose their name out there yet because they just don't have enough information, I did the same thing. So I wanted to find more out about pre-sales. I went to one of our resources and did my own information gathering. I liked what I saw. So again, I put my hat in the ring. I made it to the presentation round of interviews. And actually, when I was done, the hiring manager left the room, as did my coworker. And the hiring manager came back in and basically said he felt like he was on an episode of Shark Tank. So it was a super, super exciting moment for me. And he's used that quite a few times as a benchmark for other resources that he's tried to hire over the years. And quite frankly, it's been flattering to have him reach out and still share that. So I was in pre-sales for about 2 years at that company, and that's where BotKeeper came and found me. I was the first accounting vertical resource here at BotKeeper. And a year into the role, they promoted me to run the team. So it was a long journey to get here. I really do wish I found pre-sales earlier in my career, but now that I'm here, haven't looked back once.
Thanks for sharing that, Bonnie. Congratulations on your promo at BotKeeper as well. But, we've talked about this previously. It is this amazing role that we wish we would have found earlier. But I do think that our background and our experiences in these other verticals and other departments have really played a role in how we are approaching the pre-sales profession moving forward. So better late than never, right?
1,000%.
So let's get into our topic of increasing your visibility. And this was a PreSales Collective webinar topic that we did. It's been a constant theme throughout the community because pre-sales, as we like to say, has been the forgotten function. A lot of times it's they're the smart people, they'll figure it out. And they really haven't had a platform until the last couple of years. And this ecosystem is developing. And increasing your visibility is pretty multifaceted because it's not just this profession getting a seat at the executive table and being known and out there, but it's also down to the managers leading for their team and the individuals in the role getting visibility and credibility within their organization. So this is a pretty complex topic. Bonnie, why does this topic matter to you?
Honestly, I really do think, similar to what you're saying, it should matter to everyone. For me, I actually think I craved it. I was a person that came out of college and I wanted to succeed. I wanted to excel, but I don't know that I had anyone earlier in my career to actually show me the importance of visibility. Back then in my Deloitte days, it really was work hard and pay your dues, right? You had to go from being entry level to get to a senior. And then when you were a senior, they would expose you to learning new things. I've always had the mantra my entire life. When you learn something new for the first time, it doesn't matter where you are in your career, you're learning it for the first time. So it felt like I wanted that to be more of an asset, but I think it was something that kind of held me back. Visibility and understanding career path and actually sharing that with my resources is something that is hugely important to me. And because of that, I want my resources to feel supported from the start. What do you want to do? What do you care about? Where do you want to go? And visibility plays a huge part in that, having an awareness. Without that awareness, you're kind of on an island of one.
So well said. I mean, supporting your people, that's what it's all about. And not necessarily like, hey, this is how we do things, pay your dues. I like that flipped in the script. And you talk about no one really to show you the way. It can be very isolating. You're coming out of college, you're learning yourself, you're learning your career, you're trying to navigate all these complexities. And if you don't have that support system, it's really challenging. It is really hard and you really don't know where to start. And this is, again, one of the things that we love about the PreSales Collective is that people are just coming together to support each other to make that transition easier. And so I totally agree with your perspective there. Where does somebody start? Like, what are the most important things to consider as it relates to visibility?
Honestly, first and foremost, know where your interests lie so that you can make them known. I think there's two different ways to actually answer this question. One, if you're already in pre-sales, optimistically, you're working in a company, in an industry, I should say, that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, because then that will ooze out of you. If you are someone new to the pre-sales world and you're trying to break in, honestly, I really do think that this is a key element, because if you don't have passion for what you're selling, it actually can come across that way. It'll come across internally and externally to those that you're speaking with. So I would have you ask yourself a question. What would you be proud to be associated with as an initiative that you can start today to help set you up for success a year from now, 5 years from now? And quite frankly, social media, I know it sounds crazy, but it is a phenomenon these days and a great way to network. You don't always have to be a person creating the content. Actually sharing others' content can be just as impactful for visibility. LinkedIn, it's your business network. So you don't have to be an expert in your industry, but you know who the experts are. Start sharing with them, start connecting with them. And then lastly, take the first step, because no one else is going to take it for you. So in our conversation earlier, when I found out about the PreSales Collective, I made it known to you, I made it known to Kevin that I actually wanted to get involved in the community. And I'm just grateful I took that first step, because look at where I am now with you.
I appreciate you taking that first step as well. It's great advice, Bonnie. It really is. And, I want to actually ask you about this social aspect of things, because even with PreSales Academy, we're talking to the future generation of pre-sales professionals, and, a lot of them just created a LinkedIn to apply to the academy. So they're not even sure where to start. And we at PreSales Collective really believe in the power of social and social sharing. You mentioned subject matter expertise. Is this something that you recommend to your own employees or those that are looking to get involved in building their credibility externally?
Absolutely. Because quite frankly, again, knowing what you have an interest in and then being able to connect, like you and I just here right now, right? We're both passionate about pre-sales. We can have a conversation, no big deal. If you can start to get yourself associated and put yourself out there in that element, in that aspect, now you've just expanded your network and the opportunities that are associated to the people that you're connected with now. Potentially, I'm flipping the script on the question a little bit, but I also do want to hit head on that through PreSales Collective, as an example, I'm now connected to people globally. Now, granted, I know I worked internationally prior to joining the pre-sales environment, but just through this community, the number of connections that I've made, the number of one-on-ones and donuts or coffee breaks that I've had with people around the world is super impactful. You realize that pre-sales, no matter where you are in the world, has a connectivity. We're all trying to achieve the same thing, even through leadership, even through just being an actual pre-sales resource, running your demonstrations. There is a uniformity that runs through regardless of what country you're in. So again, making those connections, putting yourself out there, you don't have to be that content creator, right? Is going to be huge to get yourself visibly known for yourself. You're doing it firsthand. You're not having somebody else take that driver's seat.
This is why we do this, breaking down the barriers, geographical, company-wide. I think when we started, most people were like, oh, I don't want to talk to that company. We compete with them. And now people are connecting all the time because they realize we're all solving the same problems. And like you mentioned, we're kind of in that same boat as a profession. And so I really appreciate your perspective there. And I really am happy and proud to hear the leaders like yourself that are pushing their teams to get out there and pushing their team to be those subject matter experts externally and build their brand, because I think it's a great representation of the company. So as we talk about this topic, I'm curious, have you encouraged your employees to start building their visibility externally on social? And how has that actually impacted their branding and visibility internally?
I do admit there are things that I think I can excel at with my team. And there are other areas where I actually, as a manager, still need to improve. So building my own brand, I think, is something that I've started to do over the past year or two, and not something I may have necessarily infringed upon my resources to do yet. But, after taking this conversation right now, this is likely something that I will take to our team meeting next week. We have sat in different webinars regarding branding. And recently, I actually sat through a John Barrow's webinar with James Buckley. This really actually resonated with me. He was at a former company and he was trying to build out his branding. And the company thought they were basically competing with him and told him to tone it down. And quite frankly, that was the reason that he opted to leave that company and join John Barrow's. And look at him now. I watch him basically every morning go to the gym, and it's inspirational. So again, social media has such a huge impact on visibility. You have so much control over it, as well as leaning into your network to support you. So I guess that's where I really should be talking to my team more about that.
It's a great perspective, and I appreciate you sharing that. I love what Burroughs and their team have continued to do, and I think that they've really embraced the individual brand as it relates to the company. And as you mentioned, bringing this to your team, we are all so busy personal lives, professional lives. And so trying to find balance can be tough. For example, recently on LinkedIn, you saw a lot of people sharing their journey to pre-sales. And it took a lot of people a long time to write those posts, to sit down and make sure it was eloquent and thanked all the people that they wanted to thank. And it can be hard. It can be time consuming. And so how do you balance those brand building and visibility activities with your current workload?
I hate to answer a question with a question, but who says they have to be independent of each other, right? If it's something that, you found that interest that you like, then it becomes actually a passion. and it doesn't become work. So if you can commingle the two, more power to you. If you can excel at your current role, again, you're sharing content of the things that, your current role exposes you to, and you do it well, and you take the time to learn it and to become that subject matter expert, you become visible to those around you. You become desired to work with for those around you. So taking that initiative to understand what you really enjoy doing and going after that makes it a little bit easier. And again, doesn't have to be independent of each other.
I like that perspective. Going back to, people who really don't know where to start. They don't necessarily know where to start when it comes to building visibility, both externally and internally. And that can actually be a very intimidating situation to be in. How should someone go and speak to their manager about their desire to increase their visibility, both internally and externally?
So internally, easiest step by far is through a one-on-one with your manager. And if you don't have a recurring one-on-one in the calendar, that really should be the first priority that you're doing today, just because that is the easiest way to try to communicate upwards. From there, and this is something I personally do with my team, I'm actually the one that books the one-on-one recurring calendar event dedicated to career talk. It's not dedicated to work talk. If there are no topics for the career, it's completely fine. We'll use the rest of the time either to give you time back so that we're not infringing on your day, or potentially using that time to talk about something that did arise at work. But first and foremost, that meeting is always for your career. What initiatives do you want to get involved in? Where do you want to be a year from now? Maybe you didn't know the last meeting, but maybe something transpired. As a manager, you really should also be curious about where your team wants to go, what they want to do. It shouldn't be a surprise a year from now that, they want to be promoted maybe, or they're thinking about working and collaborating with other departments. If it's something where it's external, then who are those people that you look to and admire? What are they doing? Can you take a conversation with them, ask them about their journey? We've got PreSales Collective Slack channel, right? There's so many different opportunities. You've got the help channel. You also have the Donut app that can introduce you to different resources where you're just taking 15, 20 minutes to have a conversation. It's truly about being curious. It's really about taking that first step. And then it's also about focus and consistency. First time, you may not get the answers that you want to hear, but don't give up. Keep focus. Keep moving forward. As I indicated, one-on-ones can truly be impactful. So I actually have a resource that I'm super excited to say just entrusted me with these types of conversations. And as a result, he's actually going to be transitioning out of our pre-sales department in about 2 weeks' time, but to take on a new account executive expansion role that we've created here at BotKeeper. So first and foremost, his pre-sales role is really going to help him excel right out of the gates in this new role. Secondly, because of his pre-sales role, his visibility actually opened doors to new opportunities. And quite frankly, I will say, and I'm not tooting my own horn here because it wasn't me, it was all him. But I do think that a great manager allows these conversations to happen. A great manager supports a team member to achieve their goals, not holds them back just because they need a resource on the team. We're always going to be hiring, right? Which is also an exciting opportunity. So in that fact, I'm super excited for Ryan. So Ryan Kelly, congratulations. Super excited to see you exceed in this new role and continue to partner with you in a new way.
I'm so happy you shared that story, and congrats to Ryan. I think you nailed it. Great leaders build these types of relationships, and they're not afraid to let people go. There's so many leaders out there that will hold people back. And I remember parts of my career where I had really great employees that were looking for something else. And my leadership was like, well, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you keeping them? I'm like, why keep somebody who's not happy or wants to do something else? Be the leader that gives them that opportunity and helps them. Because I also think that the strength of a company as it grows is all about keeping good talent. And some of the best companies move people around in all kinds of different departments as they grow and scale. So I really appreciate that you've created that type of atmosphere for your employees and for your team. And I do hope more people listening, more leaders especially, will embrace that, because I think it's really important. Bonnie, we've talked a lot about tacticals and increasing brand and going to your leaders or leadership to say, hey, how do I do this? But you've talked a lot about things that you're doing proactively for your team. And so as a leader, how do you continue to help your team increase their personal visibility, but also your team's visibility within the organization?
It's a great question. I mean, probably beating a dead horse here, but those one-on-ones I do think are really important. It's an opportunity for you to focus on the conversation, focus on figuring out what's working, what's not working. Always be curious. We always say always be discovering as a pre-sales resource, but you should always be curious to ask and understand, again, the career path of your resources, potentially helping to make introductions to other resources at the company or within the industry. So I actually did this with a former resource that wanted to know more about our product department and then went as far as trying to get him set up with a cross-departmental initiative so that he could actually have the best of both worlds, not leave pre-sales because pre-sales is really where he wanted to be, but he had a curiosity about product. And I think we all know that pre-sales and product go hand in hand. So again, just different ways, different opportunities for them to have visibility throughout the company. But the key point here being to set them up with initiatives now. So a year from now, they're still not wondering. You're laying the foundation to get them to succeed a year from now or wherever in their future. I also actually recently read an article on LinkedIn that resonated, and a former boss actually posted about the similar topic, but having your resources invest in their own personal board of investors. So choosing people to be around that will say your name in a room full of opportunities. How amazing would that be to be good at what you do, and those advisors will want to say your name in that room of opportunities. Think of the tough decisions that potentially would be presented to you to make now that you have a wider network. And again, it's not always about, maybe you don't know who those board members should be today, but that's where I'll flip the script. Do you know someone that you could do this for? And what qualities do they embody that you can actually start taking on and emulating today so that other people want to say your name in a room full of opportunities? Something I found hard to understand actually over the years of my career, but made peace with as a manager, especially directly related to this question though, not everyone wants to be visible. Not everyone wants to advance their career. Some people are okay with status quo, and status quo really could knock it out of the park for your resource at your company. And that's okay. Me personally, I do like to continue to learn. I do like to continue to challenge myself. And I think everyone that knows me knows I like to challenge them. But again, not everyone is at that same place in life. And, ensuring that you're taking these conversations in your one-on-one, I do think is important so that you're not pushing someone that really is not looking to be pushed, if that makes sense.
I really like that you talked about the personal board of advisors. Something Kelly Podarsky introduced me to was like concept of personal board of directors is what she called it. And actually Stephanie Madsen on the PreSales Collective company LinkedIn page was talking about this concept recently. It's so tried and true because it really makes a difference. It really, really does make a difference. And so I love that you brought that up. And I think one of the most important things that you said though, and that was at the end where you just mentioned that you've had to make peace as a manager that not everybody wants to be visible or advance in their career. And the toughest part about that is you got to be okay with it. Everybody is different. In my opinion, our goal as leaders and managers is to maximize that person in terms of their potential and their overall happiness that makes sense for them, the team, the org, and the business generally. I love everything that you said there. Bonnie, I want to get maybe a little bit tactical because I think we've talked about this previously about helping your team get recognized and overall team performance. And as I understand it, not to steal your thunder, but I know that you've done some pretty good things here, especially as it relates to President's Club. Is that correct?
1,000%. Pre-sales actually didn't have the right to earn their way to President's Club. Very few resources across several products were actually voted in by an executive team. And personally, that never sat well with me because I know what a pre-sales resource has to put in order to help support the deal. I'm not saying that they do necessarily more or less than other team members, but there's some blood, sweat, and tears in there. So When I was promoted to manager here at BotKeeper, I truly advocated so every pre-sales team member was able to earn their way to club. And right now, I am super proud to say that we have our first resource that just earned his way to President's Club. So congratulations, Ryan Falkingham, for knocking it out of the park in 2021, your first year here at BotKeeper. Hopefully 2022 is ready for what you're going to serve up to them because you're already coming out of the gates hot. So super excited about that. And then I would say even beyond that, if you don't have any recognition coming when sales leadership is actually making announcements about wins, get with your sales leadership team. Right now, I can't take credit for this one. Our SVP of sales, Dave Farhi, when he joined our company, opted to start making slides. It would announce the company that, we're now partnering with, as well as the full team. So your BDR, your account executive, your solution engineer. And it may seem like such a small little thing that's so easy to do. And it truly is, but the impact goes such a long way. So from that element, that's another area that I would suggest. The last area, not to continue to steal potentially your thunder of another question, James, but we've been talking about social media throughout this conversation today. And it's another avenue that you truly can provide visibility for your team's recognitions, for the world's awareness of what your team has accomplished. It goes beyond just the network that you're connected to. You've heard me say I'm now connected to people around the globe just because of the PreSales Collective. All of my network and beyond has now just been made aware of the accomplishments of my team as a result of the awards they won from our sales kickoff for 2022.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I was talking on a PreSales Leadership Collective event last year. There was an individual said he's been at his company for 19 years and no one on his team had ever been to President's Club. And I was like, you need to change that.
That's awful.
I know. I felt terrible. I still feel terrible. So those are the things that we need to continue to celebrate. And kudos to you for making that happen for your team. And kudos to Ryan for getting there. I love that you talked about, it does take a village and, making sure when these deals close and opportunities close, it's the full team because sales is a team sport. And I think that's one of the things that's really important to us at PreSales Collective. And so, Bonnie, this has been an incredible podcast. I mean, you've given us so much tactical advice and great stories of successes with you. So I want to close on an advice question and maybe taking a little bit of a different approach. What should somebody do who maybe feels like they're trying to put themselves out there? They've been putting themselves out there on social. They've been trying to be more visible internally, but they're just not getting the recognition. What should they do?
First and foremost, you're already a pre-sales consultant. You've got a manager. You've got those one-on-ones. Ask for feedback. Ask them to review what you're putting out there. For LinkedIn, for example, you could be putting phenomenal content out there, but you're not tagging anyone. So no one is actually seeing it. Your network hasn't grown yet. Again, you don't have to be a content creator. Take an example for me. I find the content in my industry that I think is important for my audience to know. I give the source credit. That source now also has a network that's seeing things. You're now individually growing your network. But again, ask someone to review and provide you feedback in that area. So it could just be a simple tweak. A couple other things. Don't stop trying. Stay focused, stay consistent. But again, if it needs a little tweak, still then stay focused and consistent on trying to improve what you're trying to accomplish. Lastly, again, I'm here for a reason. So build your network on the PreSales Collective. Seek advice of others on the various different channels. Strangers may no longer be strangers and they become your best allies, friends, and take you on a new path to success.
Fantastic advice, Bonnie. Really appreciate it. And that last one obviously hits home. It's so amazing to see the relationships, as we said, built through PreSales Collective and just people connecting across the world. I mean, so many doors get opened, you're right, when you get introduced to strangers who could become your future colleague or your future leader, right? Or you could become their future leader or colleague. And we hear those stories all the time. So thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. Really, really appreciate your perspective and love your thoughts on this topic. It's so important for the profession. So thank you for continuing to lead the way.
Cheers for having me and excited to see what the future holds.
Me too. See you, Bonnie. Thanks for the time. All right, PreSales Collective. What a wonderful episode with a wonderful guest. Bonnie's a great example of someone who wanted to increase her visibility. I mean, you heard it from her, reaching out to me, reaching out to Kevin. For anyone who wants to get involved and engage, presalescollective.com/contribute. You can fill out a form, raise your hand, let it be known that you want to get engaged. Please do so. As we talk about today's episode, Bonnie started off by saying that she craved the visibility. She had no one to show her the way. And I think that is so common in today's workplace. Unfortunately, that is so common for so many people, whether you're early stage career or late stage career. And so getting started and finding folks to help you get started is extremely important. As Bonnie talked about, building that board of advisors, finding individuals who will champion you, who will be able to say your name in a room full of opportunities. They'll be able to present you with future opportunities. And these people can be strangers. These people could be someone at your company. They could be your direct leaders. They could be someone that you haven't even met yet. And that's the beauty of PreSales Collective and getting engaged in the community. And once you make that first step, showing off your subject matter expertise, whether that's internally within your organization or externally on things like social media. I say this all the time. When I switched into tech, I came from hospitality and operations. And the way for me to build my visibility and my brand was to take my expertise from hospitality and insert it into the hospitality tech company to be a subject matter expert. Not only did I increase my visibility internally, but also externally with our customers, building trust. And that was the foundation for my pre-sales career. And so I encourage you to do the same. And one of the things that Bonnie asked us to reflect on is, what do we want to be proud to be associated with 5 years from now? Let that be known to your peers, your colleagues, your leaders, your board of advisors, and have those people help take you there and be a resource and support for you along the way. So I encourage you, if you aren't already doing so, to please take the first steps in increasing your visibility. If you don't know where to start, listen to today's episode again. You can always reach out on the help channel in the PreSales Collective Slack. You can ping me one-on-one. You can message so many people within this community that are always willing to help. Increasing the visibility for us as pre-sales professionals is extremely important on an individual level and on a profession level. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And in terms of increasing your visibility, if this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to post on social about this episode by sharing 2 or 3 of your learnings, tagging the PreSales Collective and hashtagging PreSales. All right, PreSales Collective, thank you so much for your time today, and I will see you next week.